Good morning. I'm just going to continue my series on the decisive games from the World Chess Championship last year in 2024 between Ding Liren, the defending champion, and Dominaju Gukesh, known as Gukesh, who had surprisingly won the candidates. It's become the youngest ever candidate. Could he, youngest ever challenger for the World Championship? Could he become now the youngest ever World Chess Champion? The first game was a win to Ding, brilliant French defence. The second game was a draw, and the third game was a win to Gukesh. A good, solid, pressure all the way win that showed his fighting qualities and his ability to calculate as well. Let's see what happens in the third game. The fourth game. So it's not the fourth game. After game 3 and Ding won, there were 6 draws in a row. Both players had chances in those six drawn games, but both players showed some degree of nervousness and didn't manage to find the right combination or let an advantage slip away or whatever. So there wasn't another decisive game until game number 11. Just 14 games to play. So the nervousness has ramped up and ramped up because the nearer you get to the final and 14th game, the less you can stand to lose a game. So knight to f3, the Reti opening. Yeah, it's a slower conservative way of opening. d5, c4. It calls it for the Reti gambit and it says it's a gambit, but let's face facts, folks. If he takes the pawn, queen can come here, check, and can collect the pawn. Not much of a gambit when you get the pawn back instantly. But of course, that doesn't happen. He plays d4. So, gains a little bit of space on the queen side. And this looks a bit like a Benko gambit in reverse, but it's called the Reti gambit declined advanced variation still. And this is a black trying to give away a pawn. He's gambiting the c pawn in the hopes of getting quicker developments. Gukesh says no thank you. I don't need that pawn. And they try a little bit of normal development. The bishop comes to g4 and he takes and he challenges the bishop. Bishop takes the knight and the queen now has good pressure against the b7 pawn. Defended by the queen, but will have to be defended by the queen for some time. This pawn is defended by the bishop, but he wants to defend it more because if he can somehow lure this pawn away, perhaps with knight here, rook here, yeah, pawn here, then this bishop becomes vulnerable. So he wants to get on with his development, and he plays d3. a5, wants to break down that structure, and the pawn comes to d5. And the knight comes to d7. Yeah, he's gonna bring his pieces out somehow, and you can see that this is a very complicated and somewhat messy stilling position. It's going to be difficult to get the pieces out properly. So Gukesh plays g3, ready to fianchetto the bishop and castle shots. They can't fianchetto the bishop, no. Or can he? It's threatening. This pawn is being threatened by the knight. Yeah, he fianchettos the bishop anyway. Says, okay, I'm defended by the queen, that's got to be good enough. And he doubles up the knights, intending to come to e5 with his knight and threaten the queen. So he castles, and the knight does indeed come to e5, threatening the queen and doubling up on the pawn. But he pins the knight with queen to f4, pins this knight. And if he takes the pawn with this knight, then the queen takes the pawn. And that's fine. So he defends the pawn on d4 with his rook. And he defends the pawn on d3 with his rook. Pawn comes to g6, he wants to get his bishop into play. And a6, it's not just to support the b pawn, it's to allow either the knight or the bishop to use the a3 square so that he can finish his development. Smart. But this is a really smart move. The queen is, at the moment, has to defend the knight on e5. It's only defender, so when he threatens the queen with the pawn, he doesn't just gain himself some more space, he forces the queen to the only square where, well, she can go b8 or d6, chooses d6, whereas she'll keep defending the knight on e5. Oh, sorry. So the queen comes to d5, and the bishop comes to a3 as advertised previously. You see, when it's a world championship, all the YouTubers rush to be the first out with their analysis of the game, and yeah, have a good analysis as quickly as possible. I've waited almost 12 months. Have I used that 12 months to take a deep dive and a big understanding of the position? No, I haven't. Who do you think I am? I'm an amateur fool wittering on about chess, but okay. It was now that I got round to it, I don't have anything new. I don't have anything fantastic, which you haven't heard before, to contribute to this discussion. So simple. So, bishop comes to h6. The queen has just one square, it looks like. But he takes the knight first to threaten the queen so that his queen opens up this square for his queen. Smart. So the queen takes, and he plays queen to d5 and threatens the pawn on b7. So this pawn is just 2 away from queening. So it looks good on b7. So looks good on b6. So he defends the b7 pawn by putting the knight in the way. And the knight, again, used to the a3 square which had opened up. Rook comes to d7. Maybe there were some threats of playing knight here, for example. The knight rearranges itself. It's coming to attack the pawn here. Queen takes b6. I think this is a serious mistake by Ding. When he takes the pawn, he makes the c7 pawn, which is seen by the bishop as an x-ray, by the queen as an x-ray, and now by the rook when it comes and threatens the queen, and just defended by the rook at the minute. Possibly the queen can defend it. So I don't like the move. I think it gave him trouble. Rook comes to b1 and queen comes to c7 to defend the pawn. Yeah, great. The rook comes to a5. He's threatening to double up here and win this pawn. He castles so that he can bring the other rook to b8. So it looks like he might just about get away with it, but no. Knight comes to a1. He's heading to b3, and then maybe he's going to take the pawn here. Rook comes to b8. The knight comes to b3. Pawn comes to e6. And the knight attacks the rook on d7. Forced to go to e7. And now he's got knight. And two rooks attacking the pawn. And okay, it's defended by just as many, but the point is that if Gukesh takes, Ding takes, Gukesh takes, Ding takes, Gukesh takes, then Ding ends up with a queen against the rook. So he can't do that. So he goes to c8. But it turns out that falls to a brilliant tactic from Gukesh. You know, I think it's a tactic as a result of the mistake of taking the pawn on c6, on b6. But yeah, queen sacrifice in the World Championship. It's always nice to see a queen sacrifice. It's even better to see a queen sacrifice in the World Championships. And yeah, if he takes with the queen, then Gukesh takes with the bishop. And he can't take the bishop back or he loses the rook. So then he's just lost a piece. If he takes with the pawn, then rook takes rook and the queen is pinned to the king. And he can take with the queen, but then he takes with the rook check and he's still a piece down. So he just wins a piece out in broad daylight. I remember, when I'd seen all these aforementioned analyses by other chess YouTubers, better, more professional chess YouTubers than me, I should say. Daniel King's, your Epic Chesses, your Joseph's Chess Channel, Chess Network Jerry. I didn't just see one out of those, I've seen them all, virtually on all games. And I think, if you were to look back at those games, you'd see me commenting saying, surely Gukesh must be the world champion now. Ding had shown nerves. Both players had shown nerves, but Ding not only had shown nerves in the match, he came into the match almost on the edge of a total mental collapse. As I said, before he won that first game in really good style, I was worried for Ding. I was worried that he would just be steamrollered by his younger opponent because his mental state wasn't great. Sadly, it probably still isn't as good as it could be, but yeah. But I just think, yeah, it's easy to get carried away with these things. But looking at the game in sober reflection, a fantastic sober reflection almost a year later, fantastic game by Gukesh, and yeah, he maybe deserves to be world champion after this performance. But we'll have to hang on and see what happens in the next. There's only 3 games again. This was game number 11. There's 3 games again. It's how's he gonna turn it around in that time? Ding. Yep. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to my videos. Thanks. Bye.